politics behind it is kind of dangerous.
We are on the record for hearings of the matters listed in the North Dakota Industrial Commission hearing docket for February 27th. I'm David Garner, hearing examiner for these hearings. We're at the hearing room for the Department of Mineral Resources, Oil and Gas Division, and it is 9 a.m. We'll begin with moving to case numbers 32171 and 32279. These cases are rehearings following the Industrial Commission's approval of Continental's petition to reconsider the Commission's original orders and will be consolidated for the purpose of the rehearings. Case number 32171 is an application of Continental Resources, Inc. for an order for the Hanson Bakken Pool and or South Meadow Bakken Pool, Williams County, North Dakota, to create and establish two overlapping 2560 acre spacing units comprised of sections 6, 7, 18, and 19, Township 159 North, Range 96 West, and sections 30 and 31, Township 159 North, Range 96 West, and sections 6 and 7, Township 158 North, Range 96 West, authorizing the drilling of a total not to exceed 5 wells on each proposed overlapping 2560 acre spacing unit, and such further relief as appropriate. Case number 32279 is application of Phoenix Operating LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for South Meadow Bakken Pool to authorize up to 4 wells to be drilled in a previously established 1280 acre spacing unit described as sections 6 and 7, Township 158 North, Range 96 West, Williams County, North Dakota, or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Lawrence Bender, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in these consolidated matters, case 32171 and 32279 on behalf of Continental Resources, Inc.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Aaron Bieber, P.O. Box 1017, Saratoga, Wyoming, appearing on behalf of Phoenix Operating LLC in these consolidated matters 32171 and 32279.
Mr. Examiner, these matters are before the Commission as a result of a petition for reconsideration that was filed by Continental Resources several weeks ago. Initially, there was a request for a rehearing. There was an exchange of briefs. There was some supplementing of the record with additional exhibits. At one point in time, Continental Resources indicated to the Commission that they didn't believe there was a need for the rehearing and withdrew its request for a rehearing. Continental has no additional evidence that it desires to offer in this matter today.
Okay. Attorney Bieber?
And Phoenix Operating agrees, generally speaking, that it doesn't wish to supplement the existing record along with additional supplemental briefing that's been filed in this matter subsequent.
Any questions or comments from the staff?
I guess I'm a little curious as to why the parties don't wish to cross-examine the evidence that was submitted during the petition for reconsideration.
I can go first, Mr. Gore. As you know, and I don't want to dwell on this, the Commission has made a decision and we accept that decision, but we had made a request for the ability to conduct discovery. That was granted on a limited basis, but it was Continental's position that that limited basis would not provide us with the necessary information to really do much with it. We anticipated that if we served interrogatories and requests for production, that there would be objections, as there typically are. I'm not pointing fingers at Phoenix. That's just the way litigation goes. And we just believe that we would not have accomplished much and probably spent a lot of money to gain nothing in the short frame period of time. Once again, that's not to suggest that we don't appreciate what the Commission did in trying to assist us in that, but we just don't believe that it was sufficient for us to get much information that presenting additional information and cross-examining would have been useful.
So you don't believe that witnesses appearing in cross-examination could have got to a majority of the items you thought you would get through discovery?
No, because we had a lot of questions about different things that we would have obtained through discovery. And like I said, and once again, thank the Commission for doing what they did, but we just don't believe that the amount of time that the Commission allowed us for discovery would have allowed us to get the information that we would have needed to conduct cross-examination at a hearing like today. So we believe that there's sufficient information in the record for the commission to render a decision.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have anything to add, Attorney Beaver?
No, other than that, we think that the time allotted for discovery that the commission allowed was sufficient, and Phoenix, was of the position that the rehearing wasn't necessary to begin with. So ultimately, it also wishes that the commission reach a decision based on the materials before it right now.
Anything further? That concludes our hearing for case numbers 32171 and 32279. Case number 32492, application of Phoenix Operating LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Butte Bennett Creek Bakken Pool to establish a stand-up 3,200 acre spacing unit described as sections 5 and 8, Township 146 North, Range 99 West, and sections 20, 29, and 32, Township 147 North, Range 99 West, Mackenzie County, North Dakota, and authorize 5 horizontal wells to be drilled in such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Aaron Beaver, Saratoga, Wyoming, on behalf of Phoenix Operating LLC. And this morning to present our application, we have 3 witnesses, Mr. Justin Arn, Mr. Topher Lewis, and Mr. Eric Shivey.
Mr. Arn, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter or any subsequent matter today will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief.
I do, sir.
Justin, will you please state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and please give your business address.
Certainly. My name is Justin Arn. My title is Chief Land and Title Officer for Phoenix Energy LLC. Business address is 4643 South Ulster Street, Suite 1510, Denver, Colorado, 80237.
And Justin, have you previously testified before the commission?
I have not testified before this commission.
Okay, Justin, can you please briefly describe your educational and professional background for the commission?
Certainly, I have a background in business administration philosophy from the University of Hawaii. I subsequently entered careers in management before becoming a landman in 2016, where I've been practicing land in both due diligence and acquisition title for the last 9 years. I've spent the last 6 of those with Phoenix Energy LLC, acquiring assets and operating wells in the Bakken. I'm the head of the land department for Phoenix Energy. I have a team of about 45 in-house landmen that work for me across operating, acquisitions, and things of that nature. And we've probably been one of the most active acquisitions company in the basin, including North Dakota and Montana.
And Justin, are you personally familiar with the land matters, including the land exhibits that are the subject of your proposed space units in this application 32492?
I am.
I move that Mr. Arn's testimony be received as that of an expert by the commission.
Motion granted.
No objection.
That's right. Yeah, motion granted.
Pardon me.
I talked over Lauren.
I think I
Sorry.
said it. I apologize. Missed the no.
All right, Justin, moving on, have you prepared or caused to be prepared the exhibits for this hearing?
I have.
Justin, please turn to Exhibit L1 and using Exhibit L1, please identify your proposed spacing unit on the broad background that's subject to this application.
Absolutely. Exhibit L1 is a regional locator map identifying the 5 sections that make up the 5-mile spacing unit that Phoenix is proposing here today. Those sections being sections 20, 29, and 32, Township 147 North, Range 99 West, along with sections 5 and 8, Township 146 North, 99 West, all located in Mackenzie County, North Dakota.
Okay, turning to Exhibit L2, can you further describe Phoenix's proposed spacing unit subject to this application?
Definitely. We can see a zoomed-in version of these 5 sections here. Again, sections 20, 29, and 32 of 147.99, and sections 5 and 8 of 146.99. You can see that there was an old Pennzoil Co. Red River well that's currently P&A'd. There's no current production on these lands, and Phoenix's working interest in the proposed spacing unit is just over 50%.
And Justin, turning to Exhibit L3, can you describe the contents of Exhibit L3?
Definitely, given the size of the spacing unit, we wanted to provide a acreage on a section level for this 5 mile unit. So you can see that Phoenix owns about almost, I think it's 39%, if I'm not mistaken, of section 20 of Township 147 North 99 West. That's the working interest, of course, being 252 acres. Phoenix doesn't own any interest in section 29, that being a Burlington section. Entirely, the minerals are entirely owned by Burlington. 110 acres in section 32 of Township 147 North 99 West, and then 599 acres in section 5 and 640 acres in section 6.
Okay. Turning to Exhibit L4, you please describe the contents of Exhibit L4, including the diagram there off to the left.
The diagram to the left shows the 5 sections in question. They're subject to this proposed spacing application, 20, 29, and 32, along with 5 and 8. I do want to point out that little portion in pink being the southwest quarter of section 32, which is a co-tenancy situation where the federal government, or the BLM, owns unleased minerals, one half of the unleased minerals in section 32. That has been nominated by way of a federal expression of interest. And then there are federal minerals also in section 8. Those are currently leased, and Phoenix owns the leasehold rights to all 480 acres in that section.
Now, with the unleased federal minerals, does Phoenix intention to bid on those federal unleased minerals?
Absolutely.
How about the unleased fee owners? They're shown as 3.2% of your 5 mile DSU. Is your intent to seek leases to cover those unleased interests?
We are still seeking those leases, yes.
And back to the unleased federal, is it Phoenix understanding that it would be able to drill through the undivided 50% federal acreage under recent Bureau of Land Management guidance memorandum?
It is indeed.
Okay. Justin, who's the second largest owner in this DSU?
In the proposed 5 mile unit, it would be Kraken Oil and Gas with 20%.
Okay. Turning now to Exhibit L5. Can you locate Phoenix's proposed 5 mile DSU on Exhibit L5 there?
Certainly. L5 is an area spacing design map that we created indicating current spacing and some of the proposed spacing that the board has seen before yesterday, today, and potentially next month. I want to locate the 5 mile DSU that Phoenix is proposing in the dotted blue line there, again consisting of sections 20, 29, 32, 5, and 8, surrounded by some producing wells, but no production in that particular unit at this time.
How about directly north of your proposed DSU? What's all that outline that's filled in red?
Certainly. The red portion there is not administratively available. I think it's a wildlife area by way of the BLM. This is unavailable to be leased and essentially defines the contours of where development could occur in 147 North 99 West. So you can see that the operators and spacing are all sort of moving around that area, unable to go further north than that.
And looking at the northernmost portion of Section 20, what is that brown box that's right at the top of Section 20 there?
We've got a little brown box there indicating our proposed surface location that we're already negotiating with the surface owner on. We have a further exhibit showing support from that surface owner, who's also a large mineral owner in this proposed spacing unit, and that is where we locate our pad. You can notice that it's almost directly in Section 20, and then would be heading southbound all the way to Section 8.
Now, looking directly east of the your proposed DSU, Phoenix's proposed DSU, in Section 16, 21, 28, and 33 of 147.99, what is that 4 mile configuration?
That configuration is a recently approved 4 mile stand-up. I believe it was applied for by Burlington, and an order was issued by this board. I want to say it was within the last month that order to space that unit was issued.
And looking further east still, sections 22, 27, and 34, that 3 mile configuration, 147 North, 99 West?
I believe the same applicant, Burlington, And also that order was that spacing order was given by this board, I think, within the last month.
Okay, how about sections 26 and 35 or 147.99, and then down into sections 2 and 11 of 146.99?
That was an application. It may have been Burlington or Conoco. You'll have to excuse me. Sometimes I get the two confused. That order was again recently issued by the board. Phoenix owns the working interest in 2 and 11 there. That's a producing Prima well. Phoenix entered into negotiations with Prima, obtained the working interest, and has filed permits in sections 26, or permits that will pool sections 26, 35, 2, and 11. Those are currently submitted.
And south from those two 4-mile DSUs, the two outlined in light blue.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't quite address 25, 36, 1, and 12. That's another 4-mile unit. That spacing has also been approved. Phoenix has filed permits and sent out AFEs and intends to drill that soon. Moving south from there, you can see the two outlines in blue there. Sections 14, 23, 26, and 35 were subject to a hearing, I want to say it was 2 months ago. Don't quote me on that, where Phoenix applied for 4-mile spacing there. Phoenix owns a majority of that working interest. And then 13, 24, 25, and 36 are subject to another 4-mile application filed by Phoenix, which has been continued. We expect that to be heard in March, and we are working with SOGC, with the who has the producing well there in 13 and 24.
Okay, looking west now to section 17, 20, 29, and 32 of 146 north, 99 west. It's labeled case 32490. Can you please describe that?
Certainly. Case 32490 was heard by the board yesterday by White Rock. That was a 4-mile configuration that you guys heard for to space sections 17, 20, 29, and 32. Phoenix supports that application, and I think it works for the particular pattern and configuration that's being defined by 146.99 and 147.99, given the limits that are being pressed upon us by the contours of the not administratively available sections.
So looking north from the township line that splits 145.99 and 146.99, does it look like the pattern being established in that area is 4-mile DSUs across the bottom part of 146.99?
Certainly, most of the operators are aiming for 4-mile DSUs. That's what most of the applications are for, whether it's from Prima, whether it's from White Rock. Almost all of those are being applied for as 4-mile DSUs, yes.
And zeroing back in on Phoenix's proposed 5-mile DSU here, looking directly east from sections 5 and 8 into sections 4 and 9, is there a producing well in sections 4 and 9 in 146.99?
Yes, that's the Prima Johnston well.
And looking directly west from sections 29 and 32 and 147 north 99, looks like there are 2 sticks there in 30 and 31. Are those producing wells?
I believe both of those are producing. Those are both Prima wells. And I believe Prima also has an application before the board continued that would pool sections 30, 31, 6, and 7.
So is it fair to say that sections 20, 29, 32, 5, and 8 are boxed in all around, either by administratively unavailable for oil and gas stipulations area or other configured drilling and spacing units or producing wells?
I think that's accurate.
Okay. Just real quickly on the not administratively available for oil and gas stipulations area that's depicted in red. Is it generally Phoenix understanding that on account of that area that this is really a sensitive area when it comes to surface use?
That is proximity to the park, certainly.
And let's say, is it your understanding that Kraken prefers a 3-mile configuration consisting of 20, 29, and 32 of 147.99?
That's my current understanding.
Okay. And if, let's say, Kraken's protest was successful and Phoenix was not able to configure its 5 mile drilling and spacing unit. But rather, Kraken was going to operate 20, 29, and 32. What would Phoenix do with sections 5 and 8 in that instance?
I suppose in that instance, we would have to set up a new pad and drill a 2 mile configuration.
Okay, so in that instance, for these 5 sections,
Mhm.
you'd have 2 sets of drilling pads then.
Yes.
And so 2 sets of service disturbance at that time.
Yes.
Okay. For your 5 mile configuration, when is this on your drill schedule?
I believe we're hoping to slide it in Q4 of 2026. Those 2 units that I identified earlier in the green there, that's our Marion Morris unit off to the west or off to the east. If I'm not mistaken, those are on our drill schedule for Q3 and Q4 of 2026. So if Phoenix was granted the proposed spacing, we would definitely try to slide this in between or during those.
So it'd be a short rig move from those 2 units, 4 mile units off to the east, over to this 5 mile to the west.
Very short.
And have you permitted or submitted permits for this 5 mile configuration?
Phoenix has submitted 4 5 mile permits for this configuration.
And within your DSU, do you have expiring leases?
We do.
So drilling this in the somewhat near term is a concern of Phoenix's.
It is.
Okay. Turning to Exhibit L6. Please describe Exhibit L6.
Exhibit L6 is a simple letter of support from our surface owner, Bonnie Tarnavsky. I'll note that Ms. Tarnavsky is also a mineral owner, one of the largest mineral owners in Section 20 of 147 North 99 West. We just wanted to include it as an exhibit for the board's consideration.
And again, turning to Exhibit L7.
L7 shows the working interest owner support of Anderson Oil that owns 120 acres in the proposed spacing unit that, again, we wanted to submit for the board's consideration.
I have no further questions for our land witness and move to admit our land exhibits L1 through L7.
Attorney Bender, I didn't give you a chance to appear. I apologize. If you made a quick appearance before you started, that would be great.
I thought I did have an opportunity to appear. Yeah, Lawrence Bender, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this matter on behalf of Kraken.
Okay. Any objection to admission of the exhibits?
No.
The exhibits are admitted. Any cross-examination?
Yeah, I have a few questions. Mr. Arn, let's start with your exhibit L5.
Okay.
You spent a considerable amount of time discussing the various spacing patterns on this exhibit. You didn't spend much time on the existing 1920s. There are some 1920s also that have been spaced in this area. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I think I mentioned 22, 27, 34.
And section 20, 29, and 32 is also a 1920. Is that correct?
It's currently spaced as a 1920.
And 5 and 8 is currently a 1280. Is that correct?
I believe it may be.
And Phoenix drills horizontal wells on 1280s. Is that correct?
We have, yes, sir.
And you believe that they're economic?
We can make them economic.
And as you just pointed out, section 20, 29, and 32 is currently a 1920. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And 5 and 8 is currently a 1280. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So your proposed 3,200 acre spacing unit would replace those 2 spacing units.
Yes, sir.
Correct? And so this isn't a situation where you're out spacing an area that is unspaced. This is spaced right now.
That's right.
You talked a little bit about your drill schedule that I think you said fourth quarter 2026. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Is Phoenix here today committing that it will drill all 4 wells at that time in the fourth quarter? Or will it just drill 1 well, see how that goes, and then make a decision as to whether other wells will be drilled?
I think I would leave that for my engineering witness.
You're a landman. Do you not know what the plans are? Are you going to? You're permitting all four. Are the plans to spud all four?
My understanding is that we would drill all four.
If you decided to drill just one well, would you have a situation where one horizontal well would hold 3,200 acres?
If we decided to do that.
And when will you make a decision whether you will drill one well or whether you will drill four?
Well, we've submitted 4 permits, so I think that's a pretty good indication right there.
Are you here today to make a commitment that you will drill all four?
I think that's a better question for an engineering witness.
If you know.
I'm not sure that anyone can come up here from any company and commit 100% to this board based on all sorts of different factors that would come into play, oil price and all sorts of different things by the end of Q4. I don't want to make that promise to this board. I don't feel that's appropriate.
So the answer is no, you can't make that commitment.
We've made quite a commitment in terms of cost and surface owner support and all sorts of things already. I think that should be enough.
Well, but you won't make a commitment here today that you will drill all 4 wells.
I just don't think it's appropriate, Mr. Benner.
And would you agree with me if you only drill one well, you'll have one well holding 3,200 acres?
That's correct. We would if that was the case.
Let's turn to Exhibit L3. You pointed out your percentage of ownership on each one of the sections, or at least some of the sections. And on Section 20, you said it was 39%. Is that correct?
I think it's 252.5 over 640. I feel like that comes to 39. Yeah.
Would do the math for me on Section 32. What's your percentage of interest there?
Probably just over a sixth.
And what does Phoenix own in the existing 1,920 acre spacing unit?
I think it's about 18 or 19% in the existing 1,920 acre spacing unit.
And just a little bit over a majority interest, 50.05% in the proposed 3,200 acre spacing unit. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What does, let's go to your exhibit L5. I wasn't able to take the notes quickly enough, but in sections 4 and 9 of 146.99, that's an existing 1280, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you don't know if there's any plans for how that row of sections 4, 9, 16, 21, 28, 33 will be developed. You're just speculating as to that. Is that correct?
I believe cases have been submitted to space 4-mile spacing units that consist of 16, 21, 28, and 33, that being by White Rock, and also sections 15, 22, 27, 34, that also being by White Rock. I believe there are conflicting cases that have been filed by Prima for 4, 9, 16, and 21.
Okay, so you don't really know what's going to happen there, whether the commission will create 3-milers or whether they will create 4-milers and 1280s. Is that correct?
I don't know what the commission's going to do.
So, I mean, if the commission does ultimately issue orders that provide for 1,920 acre spacing in this area and basically 3, 10, and 15 as a 1920, 22, 27, and 34 as a 1920, 4, 9, and 16, and 21, 28, and 33. And we don't know what they're going to do to the west of that either. There may very well be a pattern of 1920s. Is that correct?
That's possible.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Any questions from the staff?
Justin, you mentioned some expiring leases. When did those leases expire?
You know, I don't have that information, but I am more than happy to supplement the record, if that's all right. I can tell you that we've been leasing in this area for the last 2 years, so some of those leases are probably a year and a half old already. I think the total amount of HBP to acreage that we have is about 480 acres of the total being about 1,500. So more than 2/3 of our leases are expiring, and I can get you an expiration schedule to supplement this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Examiner, may I ask just one follow-up question as a result? Mr. Arnn, those expiring leases, are they in, which sections are they in?
They're in sections 20, 32, and 5. I may have 1 in 8, but we have all of 8. So, but obviously the vast majority being in 20, 32, and 5.
And you can solve your own problem with respect to any sort of expiring leases in section 5, can you not? Because if that were 1280, you could drill that, and Phoenix drills 1280s, is that correct?
We could.
Okay. No further questions.
Mr. Examiner, may I redirect?
Of course,
Just
yeah.
a few questions.
Yep.
So Justin, just now, Mr. Bender asked you if you would absolutely commit to drilling 4 wells within your 5-mile configuration, correct?
Correct.
Although you may not be able to commit absolutely, is it Phoenix Operating's intention, because it submitted 4 permits, to drill 4 wells within this 5-mile configuration?
It is our intention.
And is it your understanding that it would be one right after the other in a batch drilling situation?
As we always do, yes.
Okay. In sections 20, 29, and 32 that is already spaced, is it your understanding that Kraken is the largest working interest owner in those 3 miles?
My understanding is that Kraken owns 33% of that 3-mile unit currently.
Are you aware of who the second largest working interest is in that 3-mile configuration?
That would be Phoenix.
I'm sorry, what was the answer?
That would be Phoenix.
And looking down at the line, the township line between 145 North and 99 West and 146, 99. Although none of those 4-mile drilling and spacing units has actually been established, we still have 2 4-mile DSUs that have been applied for and that are pending rulings, correct?
That's correct.
And looking directly south from Phoenix's 5-mile configuration, I think you previously just testified that White Rock had yesterday submitted case 32490 to establish said 4-mile spacing unit.
Yes.
If White Rock is awarded this 4-mile unit, does this box Phoenix in to the south?
Phoenix wouldn't drill south of, we wouldn't go south.
I have no further questions.
Okay, I believe I admitted the exhibits. Mr. Lewis, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter or any subsequent matter today will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Topher, good morning. Can you please state your name, by whom you're employed, and what capacity, and please give us your business address?
Topher Lewis. I'm employed as a geologist by Phoenix Energy. Address is 4643 South Ulster Street, Suite 1510, Denver, Colorado 80237.
And have you previously testified before the commission here?
Yes, I have.
Previously, had your qualifications been received as that of an expert witness?
Yes, they were.
I move to have Mr. Lewis's testimony be received as that of an expert witness.
Any objection?
No objection.
Motion granted.
All right, Topher, are you personally familiar with the geology matters underlying the requested spacing unit that Phoenix is bringing in this application 32492?
Yes, I am.
All right, and you prepared or caused to be prepared the exhibits for this hearing?
Yes, I have.
Okay, Topher, using Exhibit G1, can you please describe the structure of the Middle Bakken Formation underlying the 3,200 acre spacing unit?
Yeah, Exhibit G1 was a structure map on the Upper Bakken Shale subsurface TBD with a contour interval of 20 feet. The structure in this area is dipping generally to the north. In addition to the structure contours, the red outline is our proposed 3,200 acre spacing unit. And in addition to that, you can see a gold line with 3 dots representing a 3-well cross section, highlighting the type log in this case, which is the middle well that we'll reference in the next exhibits and use for the engineering exhibits.
Is the Bakken formation fairly consistent within this 5-mile DSU?
Yes, it is, and that's illustrated on G2.
So turning to G2, please identify the type log and describe its contents along with the cross-section depicted on G2.
Yeah, the upper portion is a 3-well cross-section from A to A prime. And the log curves in the background are gamma ray resistivity, porosity. And the black lines are generalized stratigraphy that we use in the area. And those lines illustrate that the Bakken, in the middle Bakken, the Bakken petroleum system is present and consistent throughout the subsurface. The type log that we're using in this case is the Watson BN3411-1H. And the petrophysical data from that type well is what's summarized in the table below, and that's what we use in our volumetrics in the next engineering exhibits.
So the middle Bakken formation is present and continuous across the entire proposed spacing unit.
Correct, yeah, it's about 30 feet thick.
No further questions for our geology witness, and move for admission of the geology exhibits.
Any objection to the exhibits?
No objection to the exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any cross-examination?
Thank you. Mr. Lewis, you're not testifying, are you, that the reservoir quality is perfectly uniform across these 5 sections, are you?
Am I testifying that the reservoir quality is perfectly uniform throughout all 5 of these sections? I don't think anyone can testify that it's perfectly uniform.
And so the thickness could vary somewhat between those 5 sections.
Of course.
And the porosity could vary somewhat between those 5 sections.
Of course.
And so it's possible that you have better rock in some sections than you do in some of the other sections. Is that correct?
Is it possible?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, you're making a determination as to what's under these 5 sections based on wells, one that's in the proposed 3,200, but another one that's looks like 3 or 4 miles away, and another well that's 8-10 miles away. Is that correct?
Yes, but that would be the same if this was a 1280 or a 1920. Makes no difference
understand.
what the spacing configuration is.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you, and I didn't mean to do that.
It's okay.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear for the record. You're drawing your conclusions on wells that are quite a distance from your proposed 3,200 acre spacing.
Same distance as any other unit.
Okay. You are not able to demonstrate for the commission, are you, that you could interchange the quality of the reservoir in one section to another? That was a poorly worded question. I think I've already gotten the answer. You indicate that it isn't perfectly uniform. Is that correct?
Potentially, yeah.
So if you don't have uniformity across the 5 sections, you probably won't have uniformity in drainage. Is that a fair statement?
I'm not a reservoir engineer, so I would not speak to drainage.
Yeah, but you're a geologist, and you know that if the quality of the reservoir is better in one section, you're going to have better drainage there than you will in another section where the quality of the reservoir
It's the
is
same
not.
level of uncertainty that you would have in any lateral drilled anywhere in the basin.
If you do have differences in the reservoir quality from one section to another, could that have a negative impact on the correlative rights of the owners who have an interest in the sections that have higher quality reservoir?
I'm a geologist. I'm not an expert on
Objection
correlative
calls
rights.
for a legal conclusion.
Sustained.
No further questions.
Any questions from the staff?
May I ask a few questions on redirect?
Yeah, I'll give you a reader. I'm just going to let them.
Oh, pardon me. Thank you.
Oh, sure.
Attorney Beebe, you can go with redirect.
Yeah, Topher, we mentioned the decline of the Bakken where it appears stratigraphically below the surface. Generally speaking, it looks like, well, I'll let you describe it. Is there would you describe the decline in elevation of the Bakken subsurface as a general decline or a very abrupt decline, or how would you describe that?
I would describe this as very generalized thickness for what the Bakken looks like in the area. There's nothing unique about
Right.
this.
And Mr. Bender asked questions regarding whether there would be better rock or more porosity in one section to the next in the different 5 sections in this DSU. Is that a possibility that there would be better rock or more porosity in any given section relative to the adjacent section? Always going to be the case in any drilling and spacing unit that's set up, whether it be 2 mile, 3 mile, 4 mile?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Bender asked questions about uniformity of the Bakken formation. And he asked you whether the Bakken was perfectly uniform under these 5 sections, correct?
Yes.
Is there ever perfect uniformity underlying any DSU that is granted by the commission, whether it be a 2 mile, 3 mile, 4 mile, or even a 1 mile?
Not to my knowledge.
No further questions.
May I ask one follow-up?
Sure, I'm going to allow him to redirect after that. Go ahead. I was going to say, after your question, I'm going to allow him.
In your opinion, Mr. Lewis, is there likely to be more variability with respect to the quality of the reservoir when the spacing unit gets larger? And what I'm talking about is, are you going to have more variability when you have 1280s, or are you going to have more variability when you talk about 3,200 acre spacing?
Are you asking if there's more variability if you increase the length of the well?
Asking if there's more variability in the quality of the reservoir, the likelihood of variability, the larger the spacing unit.
There's a chance that the variability could change. It could go better or worse.
But you have more variability the larger the spacing unit.
Statistically, you're opening yourself up to more rock, so that would make sense.
Okay, so no further questions.
Ready, Beaver?
Yes, one quick question. Topher, is the variability you just described, is that in any way tied to the surface acreage in a particular spacing unit, or is it tied to the geology underlying any part of the spacing unit?
It's tied to the underlying geology.
So it has no correlation to the surface.
Correct.
No further questions.
Mr. Shivy, please raise your right hand. Solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter or any subsequent matter today will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief.
I do.
Eric, would you please state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and please give your business address?
Yes, good morning. My name is Eric Shivy. I'm employed by Phoenix Energy. My business address is 4643 South Ulster Street, Suite 1510, Denver, Colorado, 80237, and I'm the Vice President of Reservoir Engineering and Corporate Reserves at the company.
And Eric, have you previously testified before the commission?
I have.
Have your qualifications been received as that of an expert witness?
Yes, they have.
I move for the admission of Mr. Shivy's testimony to be received as that of an expert in this hearing.
Any objection?
No objection.
Motion granted.
Eric, are you personally familiar with the engineering matters that are associated with Phoenix application 32492 in this proposed spacing unit?
Yes, I am.
Have you prepared or caused to be prepared the engineering exhibits for this hearing?
I have.
Okay, Eric, looking at Exhibit E1, would you please describe Phoenix's proposed wellbore diagram for the proposed spacing unit?
Sure. This is a little different than some other wellbore diagrams I've given in the past. So we look at this a really exciting opportunity as we're proposing a 5-miler in the basin. To my knowledge, I don't think a 5-miler has been proposed in the Williston Basin. I know there's some exist in the Marcellus Shale and the Permian Basin, but I'd like to just walk through this wellbore diagram with you. 9 5/8 surface casing, that's standard for most well configurations. 7-inch intermediate landed through the Bakken. From there, we'll drill 6-inch holes. We typically do with 2, 3, 4 mallards. But in this case, we'd like to install 5-inch liner, the flush liner. We've looked at a couple different scenarios, but we've kind of landed on this one. And a couple reasons there. The extra weight, 4.5 inch liner is about 13 pounds per foot. This is 15 pounds per foot. Little extra weight, you can push that liner, easier to bottom in that extra mile of lateral. We would be anticipating of completing these in 140 to 150 stages, probably about 1,000 pounds per foot. With the extra ID too, I think it helps with friction loss. Typically, when you go to completions, I think get a little, if I may, friction loss is inversely proportional to your diameter raised to the 4th power. So you're getting, that little extra inner diameter there, you're kind of reducing your friction. And that's really important when it comes to completing frac stages, be it a 3 mallard, 4 mallard, or 5 mallard. So that helps with that. Also, when you go, probably the most important part, when you're cleaning out your well after fracs, I know most companies use dissolvable plugs. We anticipate drilling out to bottom with that much length. A snubbing unit would be employed that provides a lot of control under pressure, more specialized unit than a lot of other things, but Phoenix is very familiar with those, using them on our 4-mal laterals. And I might just add there that 4 mallards, a lot of operators have been drilling them in the Williston Basin, and I really think the first one was only the first 4 mallard in the basin. It's been probably only a little over a year ago. It might have been Hess or Cord that drilled the first one. I'm not entirely sure of that, but there's been a number of drilled. Phoenix has drilled 12 4 mallards to date and completed 11. Spud to TD is typically around, averages 12 days, and spud to rig release after you condition the hole, cement the liner, is about 14.4 days for that averages for the 4 mallards. Why we look at this as a good opportunity for 5 mallards? I'll cite 4 things, if I may, Aaron. Would you like to ask me some additional?
Well, I mean, we can certainly get to that.
Yeah.
We could talk about that perhaps on Exhibit E2 when we talk about our development plan.
That's fine.
So moving on to Exhibit E2, Eric, would you please describe Phoenix's proposed development plan for this proposed DSU, including what's depicted on Exhibit?
Yeah, I'm showing the four proposed wells here. That would be about 1,400 feet apart in our well spacing, 550 feet lateral setbacks east and west. I also denote the proposed surface location that Mr. Arndt provided in his testimony up there in the north part of Section 20. We'd be drilling north to south here is the proposal. What other questions, sir?
Does Phoenix intend to batch drill the proposed 4 wells in this particular DSU?
It is typical when we develop DSUs, we fully complete them, fully develop them at one time. It would be our anticipation, if we go down here, that we would likely drill and complete these all at once, as we standardly do.
Okay, and you just talked about perhaps 4 reasons how come Phoenix is excited or anticipates drilling these 5-mile laterals.
Right. We have a lot of acreage in our portfolio, and a couple, if you will, these meet a couple of the criteria we look at. Now, I'll briefly go over them. This is a pretty shallow dipping feature here. I think if you look at Mr. Lewis's exhibit G2, across this 5 miles, you're only changing elevation at about 100 feet. That's a relatively shallow grade over 5 miles. That checks one of our boxes. This is non-depleted acreage, no Bakken Three Forks development here, so lower risk for any, really reduces the risk for any opportunity for interference from parent wells, and that can happen in 3 and 4 mile laterals too. But we really like to set up these 5 mile attempts for good success, and we're confident in this. Number 3, this is a lower OOIP area than we can in our portfolio. I think Mr. Lewis testified it's right around 4.6 MMDO per section. That's really relatively low in our portfolio. Sure, we have some areas which are a little less than that, but most stuff we've been drilling to date is higher. And the 4th thing I'll mention is this is as Mr. Arn pointed out, this is an environmentally sensitive area, so we'd like to, limit as much surface disturbance as possible. And that's why this kind of, if you will, checks a lot of the boxes we're looking for the planned 5 mil development.
All right, Eric. I want to go back to something mentioned. Just have you give some commentary around the number of wells that Phoenix anticipates drilling in this DSU, which is 4, correct?
Correct, sir.
All right. Now, just imagine with me for the time being that Kraken's protest is successful, and Kraken is the operator of 20, 29, and 32 to the north, and then Phoenix is then forced to drill 5 and 8 as a 1280 DSU.
Mm-hmm.
In that instance, how many wells would Phoenix drill in its 1280 DSU?
4. I would say 4 sticks to adequately drain that 1280.
Okay, so 4 wells to ultimately recover the resource under 5 and 8.
Yes, correct, sir.
And if Phoenix were to drill 20, 29, and 32 as a 3 mile DSU, how many wells do you suspect it would take to adequately drain 20, 29, and 32?
And Mr. Beaver, you're asking if Phoenix were to operate?
Correct.
Correct. Okay, we would drill 4 wells there.
Okay, so between a 3 mile DSU and a 2 mile DSU in this configuration, okay,
Yes.
how many wells is that?
I would add up, that's 8.
8 wells.
Correct.
Phoenix is proposing to drill how many wells in its 5 mile configuration?
As I show here in Exhibit E2, we would propose to drill 4 wells over those same 5 sections.
And is it your testimony that these 4 5 mile wells would adequately drain the resource
Yes, I do.
in the same manner as the 8 wells that would be in a 3 mile and 2 mile DSU situation?
Yes, approximately, yes.
So, in other words, would it be fair to say that by drilling these 4 wells in a 5 mile configuration in these 5 sections, Phoenix is avoiding the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
Okay, Eric, I think Justin mentioned drill schedule.
Yes.
It's probably a better question for you. But would you just reiterate what's Phoenix's intention in terms of the drill schedule for this particular 5 mile DSU?
Yes, it's identical to what Mr. Arndt testified to. We would be down here in Q3 and Q4 of this year with those Marion Morris pads he highlighted. We would anticipate drilling them then, and that would be a good opportunity to move the rig over. It's capital efficient. Look, Phoenix, we have different chunks of acreage everywhere, so it's where we can line up a bunch of DSUs in one area.
Sure.
It's really advantageous for limiting rig moves and cost. Also,
Now, Eric, pardon me.
No,
just
that's okay.
remind me real quick, and for the commission, Marion Morris. We throw around these
Yes,
DSU names.
that's
Can you flip to real quick to Exhibit L5?
right.
Can you just identify where the Marion Morris wells will be drilled?
Okay,
where those
those
DSUs are.
Sure. Those are the eastern green blocks, and I'll call them 25, 26 of 147.9 going into 1 and 12 of 146.99. And then the other unit is the 2635 of 147.99 and 2 and 11 of 146.99. So those are planned as, 2 4 mile units.
Sure.
Right.
And Phoenix, their intention would be to drill then this 5 mile configuration shortly thereafter.
During that time, yes. And I will point out, Mr. Beaver, that those 2 4 milers that I just mentioned, it is on our drill schedule to batch drill and complete those.
Right. So a rig move a couple miles away would be fairly efficient,
Yes, yeah. Typical rig move in that scenario is like 3 to 4 days.
and it saves some money.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, we haven't gotten to our E3. So let's, Eric, please turn with me to Exhibit E3,
Yeah.
please.
Excuse me for a section.
All right.
Yeah.
Using E3, would you please discuss the economics of Phoenix's proposed wells in this DSU?
Sure. The economics and top of the table is our ARPS parameters used to define get an EUR per well of approximately 900,000 barrels per well for the 5-miler. GOR in this area from established production, it's a little higher than other areas, 2.7 million stock tank per 2.7 MCF per barrel of oil. DSU recovery factor for these 5 wells would be approximately 15.7%. The gross economics listed below, I'm running at $65 flat West Texas Intermediate and $3.50 Henry Hub for gas. With the deducts, I show the realized oil price and the realized gas price that result in the economics. D&C cost is estimated right at called $14.8 million per well. Assuming a royalty rate of 20%, gross economics then would yield a net revenue of $47.8 million per well, an operating cost of approximately $9.9 million over the life of each well, severance tax of $3.8 million per well, income of approximately $33.9 million per well. When you discount all that cash flow back at a 10% rate, that's $8.9 million, yields an internal rate of return of 39%, undiscounted return on investment of 2.30, and an undiscounted payout of approximately 2.06 years.
Okay, and Eric, in your opinion, if Phoenix's application is approved, I think you spoke to this, but will the drilling of unnecessary wells be prevented
Yes,
with the same ultimate recovery of oil within your DSU vis-a-vis the 3 and 2 mile configuration?
yes,
Will correlative rights be protected,
yes,
and will waste be prevented?
yes.
And just turning real quick to Exhibit E4, is that the gas capture affidavit
Yes, it
was
is.
submitted by Phoenix?
Yes, it is.
No further questions for our engineering witness. I move for admission of the engineering exhibits.
Any objection to the exhibits?
No objection.
The exhibits are admitted. Attorney Bender, you can have cross.
Thank you, sir. I want to try to understand what's your application indicates that you want to drill 5 horizontal wells. Is that
Yes, that was correct, sir.
okay? But all the testimony here today has been that you want to drill 4 horizontal wells,
That's correct.
and you're going to file for 4 permits. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Bender. We filed for those
And,
4.
and you may only drill 1 well, right?
Look, that is a possibility. It is,
Okay.
Mr. Bender. It is.
And
It's unlikely, but it is.
would you agree with me that 5-mile laterals in the Bakken Formation are not common in North Dakota?
I think, as I testified, Mr. Bender, to my knowledge, this would be the first 5-milers drilled in the basin.
So not common, in fact, never been drilled.
In this basin, yes, but there has been drilled in other basins.
So
And I would add that 4-milers weren't drilled a year ago. So should we have stopped 4-mile development a year ago?
Yeah. And if you could just answer my question.
Sorry, I do tend to ramble.
No,
I
no,
apologize.
that's understandable. And I'll try not to interrupt you. I know
Yeah.
I apologize for that. So, would you agree with me, sir, that most of the Bakken development in the state of North Dakota has been on 2-mile and 3-mile laterals?
I think that's a fair
And
statement. Yes,
we're moving towards 4-mile laterals.
that's correct.
But the movement to 4-mile laterals is, I would say, at an infant stage. Is that correct?
I would generally agree with you, Mr. Bender. I think there's only maybe been 40 to 50 maybe drilled in the basin.
And you would agree with me that section 20, 29, and 32, as you have it depicted on your exhibit E2, that's already a 1,920 acre spacing. Is that correct?
That was my understanding with the testimony today.
And section 5, and I did it again. I started talking before you finished.
I'm sorry.
And section 5 and 8, that's currently spaced at 1,280 acre spacing. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Is well, let me rephrase that. Phoenix isn't claiming that 1,920 acre spacing is uneconomic, is it?
No.
And
No.
Phoenix isn't claiming that 1,280 acre spacing is uneconomic, is it?
No.
And Phoenix can't demonstrate here today that 1,920 acre spacing and 1,280 acre spacing will result in waste. Is that correct?
Objection calls for, well,
Yeah, calls for an engineering conclusion.
Yeah, it calls for an engineering conclusion.
Overruled. You can answer.
I think, Mr. Bender, as I was saying, the prevention of waste here is the drilling of unnecessary wells. We're offering us an application or a proposal where we can drill these 5 sections with 4 wells versus something more than 4 wells.
So you're equating waste with the drilling of unnecessary wells. Okay. Let's use a different definition of waste. What if the definition of waste would be that you're going to leave recoverable oil in the ground? Will 1920 acre spacing and 1280 acre spacing unit cause waste?
I don't believe so. I think where you go, Mr. Bender, yeah, like 2 mallards will recover more oil than 3 than 4. You can have a little diminishing, oil recovery, but it's going to be slight.
Is there more mechanical risk in drilling longer laterals?
You could say that to 3 to 4 to 5. We're very confident, with the 5th mal drilling that, it would really only take us 2 to 3 additional days.
But that confidence is based on it's theoretical. You haven't drilled the 5 mile.
Correct. Correct. It's an interpolation from our 4 mal wells we drilled.
Do you have difficulty delivering uniform stimulation the longer the lateral?
No.
Okay. If part of let me put it, is it possible that you may have, when you're talking about a 5 mile lateral, that you may have some portions of the lateral that will underperform as opposed to other portions of the lateral?
That is possible, but that's the same for 3, 4, even 2 mile laterals.
Does
There's
that
variability in the rock.
Does that risk increase the longer the lateral?
I think percentage-wise, it'd probably be the same as if any other lateral footage.
Can Phoenix point to any evidence that 5 mile laterals are necessary in this area?
I think, again, I was just like listening off some points that I was making. I think this is a good area to really introduce 5 mile laterals, really to minimize surface.
You don't understand my question.
I'm sorry.
Necessary.
Necessary? Absolutely. Define that. Yeah. What's your definition of necessary?
Can this area be developed on a pattern other than 5 miles?
Yes, we could.
And it's true that Phoenix can't demonstrate that a 3,200 acre spacing unit is necessary to protect correlative rights.
There are other options. We feel that this is the best option.
That's all the questions I have.
Any questions from the staff?
Eric, in your economics, did you discount the 3rd, 4th, or 5th mile?
No, those are approximately, they would be the same on a barrel per foot basis, right around 30 to 31 barrels per foot. It's been our experience with 3 and 4 mile laterals. We don't see that much degradation on a barrel per foot basis.
Do you have any idea how many 5 mile wells have been drilled in the Marcellus or the Permian?
I just started looking. I think I've found approximately 10 to 11 in the Marcellus. I've seen 1 identified in the Permian. So I agree, this is, at its infancy, but a number have been drilled.
When you talked about your drilling or your clean out snubbing unit, did I understand correctly that you use a snubbing unit when you do your 4 mile wells?
Yeah, to be clear, that's kind of a combination. We might use a coil at first. The coils in the basin, they approximately go out 3 miles to drill out. With them, we might switch over to a snubbing unit to get that extra mile and a half. But there are cases we'll drill out the whole 4 mile with a snubbing unit. Coil tubing up in the basin will not reach for 4 miles. There is oil out there, just not available in this basin. Is my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Eric, just kind of add to what Mr. Borges asked. I'm assuming Phoenix has spoken with their completion crews. I mean, is the necessary equipment in North Dakota to achieve completion and so on in a 5-mile well?
Yes, I think what you're for the horsepower and everything necessary for the fracking, yes, that is available. We have been in, initial talks with that. Yes.
In your past experience from drilling 4-mile wells, what does Phoenix, if anything, anticipate for hurdles to have to overcome on a 5-mile well?
Really, nothing really additional with the drilling. I said for the additional mile, that's about 2 to 3 extra days of drilling. Typical horizontal footage, I think most operators is between 3,000 to 4,000 feet a day in the horizontal section. On the completion side, we are upping our idea of the casing to help with the friction loss. So, we have looked at all those variables, considering them.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Attorney Beaver, any redirect?
Yes, just real quickly, Eric. Mr. Bender mentioned this idea that that 4-mile DSUs are in its infancy period. Can you just tell us, based on your experience, how long did the oil and gas industry take from getting from drilling 3-mile DSUs to 4-mile DSUs?
That's a good question. I would say probably 3-milers might have been introduced 2012, 2013 in the basin. So maybe like till 2024. So I'll say approximately 9 to 10 years of 3-milers, and just probably in the last year and a half, 4-milers have been drilled in the basin.
Okay.
That's, I think, generally correct.
When did, at least in your experience, 3-milers become widespread, not just introduced?
Not just, I think, really the past 5 or 6 years, I've seen a number of 3-mile applications, on dockets. I mean, I don't read every docket, but I do kind of look at spacing, what general trends are, and I would say that's fair.
Right. And Mr. Bender asked whether these 5-mile wells would be necessary to protect relative rights or necessary to prevent waste.
Right.
Correct?
Correct, he did.
However, in your opinion, are drilling these 4 5-mile wells necessary to avoid drilling unnecessary wells?
Yes, to your direct question, yes.
Do you have any reason to believe that as a result of this extra mile, that Phoenix is going to run into mechanical failures as a result of this additional mile?
No, we don't. We're very, we're not bragging here. We're just very confident that we can get that additional mile.
No further questions.
At this time, we're going to take a 10-minute break.
Great.
We are back on the record. Attorney Bender, you can proceed.
Thank you. First witness we intend on calling is Justin Payne.
Mr. Payne, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter and any subsequent matter today will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Justin, please state your name for the record.
My name is Justin Payne.
And Justin, by whom are you employed?
I'm employed by Kraken Resources as a landman.
And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
Yes, I have.
Had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
For the further testimony, this witness that of an expert.
Any objection?
No objection.
Motion granted.
Excuse me, Justin, let's turn to the packet of exhibits for case 32492. Let's skip the cover page and let's go to what has been previously marked as Exhibit L1. And what I'd like you to do, Justin, is identify Exhibit L1 and then just briefly explain the importance of this exhibit with respect to this case.
Sure. Exhibit L1 is the regional locator map of the Butte, Bennett Creek, Bakken Pool. You can see there in the north is the Bennett Creek, Bakken Pool, and then just to the south, sections 5 and 8 to the sections to the east, the Butte, Bakken Pool there outlined with the 1920 and 2029 and 32 highlighted in red.
Okay, and then let's go to the next exhibit, Exhibit L2. As you did with Exhibit L1, I'll have you identify the exhibit and briefly discuss what's contained upon it.
Sure. Exhibit L2 shows the working interest breakdown between sections 20, 29, and 32, showing Kraken with support from Rockport and Northern within section 20, all of section 29, and as well as support in section 32 from those same parties, along with Continental Resources as well.
Okay, and sections 20, 29, and 32 are currently a 1,920 acre spacing unit, is that correct?
That is correct.
And sections 5 and 8 are a 1,280 acre spacing unit, is that correct?
That is correct.
And the support you indicated that would be for the 1,920 acre spacing unit, is that correct?
That is correct.
And what is the percentage of ownership then in the 1920 along with the support that Kraken has for the 1,920 acre spacing unit and opposing the 3,200 acre spacing unit as suggested by Phoenix?
That would be 56.01%.
And does if this spacing unit remains at 1,920 acres, does Kraken anticipate that it will be the operator of the spacing unit?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
And what are the plans for drilling this 1,920 acre spacing unit if the spacing remains the same?
The plans would be drilling from the south.
No, I'm talking about timing.
I think we believe that the timing of this should be the next 24
I can
months.
have the next witness address it. I thought you might know, but
Sure. Hey, Josh.
we'll just have the next witness address it. So, that's all the questions I have of this witness.
Attorney Bieber, any cross-examination?
Yeah, I have a few. Justin, are you aware that Phoenix's application 32492 was originally scheduled to be heard on January 21st?
Yes, sir, I was.
Okay. So you knew that Phoenix had this application in prior to January 21st?
Prior to January 21st. We believe it in January. We acknowledged this. I believe that Alan White reached out to Justin Arden in opposition to this.
And you only protested a week ago, Kraken?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
And would it surprise you to know that sections 20, 29, and 32 were spaced in a 3-mile configuration back in 2013
Yes, we are aware of that. Yes.
by an operator named GMX,
Yes, correct.
who doesn't exist anymore, as far as I know?
Objection, relevance.
He can answer. If he knows.
No, we were aware of that. Obviously, we entered into a farming agreement with Conoco in January at the time, so we do have a 3-year development plan. Obviously, this was done in 2013. We have a 3-year timeline on this to develop this acreage. We can't go back and do anything with any prior spacing, obviously, just kind of looking at it as a go-forward basis as it's spaced currently today.
And is Kraken's only interest in this 3-mile configuration located in section 29?
Ours is, along with the support in 20 and 32.
But Kraken's ownership is isolated to section 29.
That is correct.
And Kraken only entered into an oil and gas lease on Section 29 effective January 23 of this year.
That is correct.
And your nearest wells to this 3 mile configuration are at least 7 miles away, correct?
I'd have to look at a map, but that seems correct. Yes, sir.
Do you have an executed SUA?
At this time, we do not.
Do you have a surface location in this DSU?
We have a proposed surface location in the south. At this time, we do not have the executed thing on this hearing, obviously.
And I think you might have said, Justin, so I apologize if I'm asking again, but when do you expect to drill this?
I'll kind of refer to Josh in our engineer department, handle that question.
Okay. Thank you. Do you know what Kraken owns in Phoenix's proposed 5 mile configuration currently?
I believe it's 20%.
And it's, as far as you know, it's Kraken's intent to fully develop this 3 mile configuration if it was awarded
Yes,
3 mile configuration or awarded permits on the 3 mile.
yes, sir. That is correct.
And then it'd be Kraken's intent also to fully develop the DSU.
Yes, that is correct.
Who's the second largest working interest owner in your 3 mile configuration?
In the 3 mile, I believe it would be Phoenix at 19%. I think y'all's numbers were a little bit lower there earlier.
Did you explain your plans to Phoenix for your intentions in the 3 mile configuration?
As it's previously spaced, I don't believe so. Actually, I think we did whenever Alan kind of reached out to Justin Arn regarding
So
the
you
opposition of the
you
5 mile.
okay, but you don't have any personal knowledge around that.
No, sir.
In your 3 mile configuration, you will be building a surface pad on a location somewhere within the DSU,
That is correct, or just south of the DSU.
right?
Josh will kind of has a more area picked out, I believe.
Okay, so you don't happen to know where that pad location will be located.
Not specifically right now, no, sir.
Okay, so if Kraken has a 3 mile DSU consisting of 20, 29, and 32, is it your contention then that Phoenix should be content to drill a 2 mile DSU consisting of sections 5 and 8?
I believe that looks like a possibility between these 5 sections.
Wouldn't that create 2 sets of surface pad locations
Yes, obviously it would.
and approximately double the surface damage in a relatively speaking sensitive area, being right next to a BLM protected area?
Opposed to the northern sections, is that correct?
Well, there'd just be double the pads, double the surface damage.
There would be 2 pads.
No further questions for Mr. Payne.
Any questions from the staff? Attorney Bender, any redirect?
No.
Okay. Mr. Lucero, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter or any subsequent matter today will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, sir, I do.
Brian, state your full name for the record, please.
Brian Robert Lucero,
And Brian, by whom are you employed?
Kraken Resources,
In what capacity?
Geology Manager.
And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
I have.
Had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes, sir.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
Any objection?
No objection.
Motion granted.
Brian, let's turn to the next exhibit in the packet. It's been previously marked as G1. Can you tell me what G1 is?
Yes, sir. G1 is a structure map based on the top of the Middle Pocket Formation, 25-foot contour interval, dip generally to the south. Shows the location of what we would use as our type log for this DSU.
Okay, let's go to the next exhibit then, exhibit G2. As you did with G1, identify the exhibit and then briefly discuss what's contained upon it.
Yes, sir. G2 is a cross section across this area. It includes wells both in 147.99 as well as 146.99.
Okay, can you discuss what's contained on this exhibit?
So, all 5 wells plotted, we feel bracket both the 1920 to the north and the 1280 to the south. based on log properties, we see a decrease in porosity in the 1280 to the south in 146.99, as well as an increase in water saturation. I don't know, is that sufficient explanation?
No, I want you to go into more detailed explanation as to.
So in this case, because we see a decrease in porosity to the south as well as increase in water saturation, internal modeling also shows a higher water cut in existing wells to the south in 146.99. We believe that reservoir quality to the south is notably less than in the northern 1920.
Do you have any comments with respect to the cross section or the wells that Phoenix's geologist utilized in its cross section, and whether they are as representative as the geology in this area as the wells that you selected?
Obviously, distance is a factor here, and there is only one well local, which is actually in the 1920 to the north. The other two are sufficiently far removed from the 1280 to the south that in this area, I don't believe they adequately represent the typical log properties across that 1280 DSU.
As a geologist, if you're trying to do an interpretation of the quality of the reservoir under a particular area, is it important to try to select the wells that are closest to the area that you're trying to predict the quality of the rock?
Yes, sir.
And do you think you did that?
Yes, sir.
Do you believe Phoenix did that?
No, sir.
Now, you talked about quality. The quality of the rock? Can you be a little bit more specific? Is it thickness? Is it porosity? Is it permeability?
In this case, we see in the electric logs performed in the wells surrounding the two DSUs an increase in porosity to the south of the township line. So in sections 5 and 8, we also see an increase in water saturation. Those two taken together indicate a poorer quality reservoir than to the north.
And what does that mean with respect to productivity from the rock?
Well, and as we see in water cut from producing wells in the area, it is highly likely that you will see higher water cut, less actual oil. Our internal modeling shows less original oil in place to the south as well. Just typically poorer production in that 1280 versus the 1920 to the north.
So is it a fair statement that a 5-mile lateral is going to be having, you're going to be mixing higher quality rock with poor quality rock?
I believe so, yes.
And is that the case if the spacing remains on 1920s and 1280s?
Well, you'd be separating the two reservoir qualities, if I may. You would have better property. Yeah, well, we have better properties to the north.
So better properties under the 1920
Yes.
as compared to the 1280.
Yes.
Okay. No further questions.
Attorney B. Bernie Cross.
Yes, Mr. Lucero?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Just a few questions. Has every well drilled by Kraken encountered identical reservoir properties throughout the entire length of the lateral?
Of course not.
And can you quantify the changes in reservoir quality between a 2, 3, or 4 mile lateral well?
Well, it has nothing to do with the length of the lateral and everything to do with the in-place geology. So we can absolutely model geology to determine reservoir quality.
Sure. And looking at Exhibit G2 that you had prepared, so what are the ages and quality of the logs for these wells used?
These are all legacy Red River vertical penetrations, so full penetrations of the Bakken pool in this area. In terms of quality, I see nothing to indicate that there's a question about the quality. They all.
So they're legacy, so they are quite old.
Older, yes.
How old are they exactly?
I couldn't tell you exact dates.
Okay, so the age of the logs actually plays into the quality of the information gleaned from the logs, but you don't know how old they are.
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
So is it fair to say that when you're using type logs and you're trying to develop reservoir qualities or a picture of reservoir qualities, that you want to use type logs that are relatively close to the subject DSU, correct?
Correct.
And the age of the wells that you're utilizing for the type logs, that also plays a factor and has an impact on the quality of the information you're gathering from that type log, correct?
No. Basic electric log methodology has not changed in a very long time. So the basic logs that we use, barring any very obvious signs of a lack of quality, are no less viable than those same basic logs collected today.
So there's no chance that the logs that you're utilizing are inaccurate?
If there's a chance, it's minute.
You talked about variability.
Variability in what regard?
Variability between the northern 3 sections and the southern 2 sections in this particular configuration. Is this level of variability between section lines common throughout the Bakken? I can ask it another way.
Please do.
So from one section line to another, there's going to be some variability at times.
Section lines are arbitrary. They have absolutely
Correct.
nothing to do with it.
Right. They have simply nothing to do with it. Right. So you talked about the variability between, I'm sorry, I don't have it right in front of me. You talked about the variability between the rock in sections 32 and just south of it in section 5, correct?
Yes.
And how there is, at least in your opinion, a significant amount of geologic variability based on porosity
And water saturation.
Right. So the difference between sections 32 and 5 is this level of variability common throughout the Bakken within any particular spacing unit?
It can certainly be found elsewhere in the Bakken. I won't say I don't know the entire basin. I can't tell you how.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, in your experience with the DSUs you've evaluated from one section to another, is this level of variability between sections 32 and 5, or the northern 3 sections and the southern 2 sections, common throughout the Bakken?
It occurs elsewhere, yes.
Okay. So in your experience, within a particular geographic location, which again has nothing to do, the surface has nothing to do with the geology, grant you that. But this level of variability that you're discussing within this 5-mile configuration could happen in any given 3-mile, 4-mile, or even a 2-mile configuration, or perhaps even within one section itself, correct?
If we're dealing strictly with hypotheticals, yes.
Okay. Has Kraken ever drilled a lower quality rock, in your opinion, that has performed better than Kraken expected?
I am not a production engineer. I could not tell you that.
No further questions?
Any questions from the staff?
Brian,
Yes.
Looking at your exhibit G2, I guess first I'm going to ask that you submit a digital version of this
Certainly.
as a supplemental.
Of course.
Gets fuzzy even on a printout. It's going to be impossible once it's scanned.
Of course.
On that, I might ask for a couple of clarifications. The A well identified. Are we in the upper? I'm assuming we're in the upper left-hand corner of the call out where you're identifying the direction of the cross section.
In the
Upper right-hand
upper corner of the map in the upper right-hand corner, yes, it is the well in section. Anyway, yes.
That's impossible to read because it's a printout.
Oh, I understand.
Do you know which well that is?
It does not have the. I do. I don't have it in front of me, however.
If you could make sure that when you provide the digital that it's clear which well is referenced on all of them. I think the well names are on all the other ones, but I'm not sure.
Correct.
About that one. I also don't see a Red River targeted well in that section. As it's
These are verticals, so we eliminated any log below the Bakken pool.
I see one in what would be section 30 to the west of 29 there. I only see one Bakken well and a canceled permit. So I provide what you have when you submit the supplemental exhibit.
I don't understand. These are all deep vertical wells. I may have typically those are Red River penetration, sometimes Duperum. In this case, I believe they're Red River penetrations, but they are. The primary purpose here is just to show the Bakken target in the Bakken pool.
The well in question that I'm seeing does appear to have deeper tops picked, so it could have a pilot hole drill on it or something like that. But just, again, please identify the wells when you submit the exhibit.
Of course.
The other thing I want to ask for as supplemental is a table for each of the wells depicted on your cross-section that indicates what the porosity you're evaluating in the middle Bakken is, what your water saturation that you're evaluating is.
If I may, regarding water saturation, we did not include that because while your typical water saturation calculation is common, that is, we consider the way we calculate it to be proprietary. So I would have to consult with somebody above me to make sure that that we feel comfortable releasing that. We showed here what is publicly available, and our internal calculations, as I said, show higher water saturation to the south.
And your testimony was that you're increasing in water saturation. Yes. So I'd like to understand what your water saturation looks like, or what you're projecting as an increased water saturation.
We'd also like the opportunity to examine the same level of specificity as we're providing in our exhibits as well, with relation to water saturation.
I was going to also be asking that Phoenix present the same level of information on all the wells on their cross-section. So that's a supplemental on Phoenix's side that I'm requesting at this point.
Thank you.
I'm not sure I understood your request, Mr. Beaver. Are you saying that what we supply the commission, we should supply you a copy? Is that what you're asking? I mean, I'm going to do that, obviously. Whatever we supply.
Yeah, right. Okay. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Rich, is that what you're asking? Actually, asking Phoenix to produce?
I'm asking. Yeah, I'm asking for an exhibit from Kraken and an exhibit from Phoenix. Similar situations.
Okay, so Attorney Bender, actually, it's more than just you giving it to them.
Yes, we're also providing it to
new exhibit.
I just assumed that what he filed, he'd provide me a copy. And what we filed, we'll provide them.
It's all going to be in the record.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
May I ask, can you please just repeat what you want in that table so that I make sure I have it?
A summary of what your calculated, I'll call it average porosity, that you're basing your testimony here on, that you have so you testified that there's a decrease in porosity.
Correct.
As you move to the north, I think it was.
South. Decrease to the south.
Decrease to the south and increase in water saturation to the south.
Correct.
So I want a value for porosity in each of the wells you evaluated, a value for water saturation in each of the wells you evaluated.
Okay.
You might as well provide a thickness of the reservoir, since that equates to, I think the testimony was that it equates to the original oil in place and how productive the acres are likely to be.
Sure.
What you're anticipating for the original oil in place from each of those wells, what that would be indicating. I guess do that on a 640 basis. And if you are anticipating a decrease in productivity, what that information would relate to as an anticipated recovery factor.
Okay.
I know that's kind of crossing bounds from geology and engineering, but work together to put the exhibit together. Absolutely, yeah.
Will do.
And again, same request for the wells that Phoenix has indicated in their cross section.
Table that I have in the bottom of G2,
Pretty close.
more information.
I think you probably need
One for each well.
well.
Just additional.
Did it have the? So you did have it in one place on there, and then you just don't have a recovery, but that's on the other exhibit. But put it together in one package, please.
The only reason why I ask is we may not have that same level of exact reservoir calculations done on all three. Use one as the specific example for that table.
And I'm asking it to be done on the other two.
Okay, gotcha.
I think that's all I've got. Thank you.
Attorney Bender, any redirect?
No redirect.
Mr. Lochner, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter or any subsequent matter today will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Joshua, state your full name for the record, please.
The name is Joshua Lochner,
And Joshua, by whom are you employed?
cracking oil and gas.
In what capacity?
A reservoir engineer.
And in that capacity, you testified before the commission previously.
That's right.
Had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
Any objection?
No objection.
Motion granted.
Josh, let's go to Exhibit E1 in the packet. And as the previous witnesses have done, what I'd like you to do is identify the exhibit first of all, and then briefly discuss what's contained upon it.
All right. Exhibit E1 shows a map on the right-hand side of the townships surrounding 147.99 and 146.99, which encompasses the spacing units in question. The existing 1920 is highlighted in yellow with sections 20, 29, and 32, and the proposed 3,200-acre spacing unit proposed by Phoenix is outlined with a red dashed line. The purpose of this exhibit is to show that the 3,200 5-mile spacing unit is not necessary nor optimal for this particular area. It seems that one of the main reasons that somebody would prefer to drill a 5-mile well is to increase oil production in an area where perhaps shorter lateral lengths are not supported. But when we look at the surrounding areas, the townships surrounding 147.99, we see that there have been dozens of 2-mile wells drilled within the last 3 years, and they have all been effectively profitable by my estimates, which shows that 5-mile spacing is not strictly necessary here for economic development. In fact, of all the 2-mile wells drilled since 2022, they've averaged over 150,000 barrels of oil in the first year of production. I know that Phoenix has indicated that they would be willing to drill a 1280, and they have drilled 2-mile wells in rock that I would say is actually worse than this, which I think further supports the idea that 2-mile is acceptable and 5-mile is not strictly necessary. Furthermore, within the spacing unit, the majority of the interest owners in the 1920, which is to say more than 50%, do not support the pooling of these 3 units with sections 5 and 8 to the south and drilling as a 5-mile well, which I think is important because working interest is always a significant factor in the NDIC spacing decisions. And in fact, when you look at the 5-mile spacing, Phoenix only owns about 50%, just over 50% in that unit itself, which is far from a clear majority. And I personally believe that when pioneering a novel technology
in this basin, which is to say a 5-mile well that has never been drilled here before, and even 4-mile wells are fairly new. It's not fair to the non-op owners, interest owners, in a 5-mile unit to carry the burden, like almost 50% of the burden of that risk in an unproven technology when they have indicated that they don't approve of this spacing unit to begin with. I would be much more comfortable personally drilling something novel like this with a clear majority rather than a bare majority. I think that is more fair to the interest owners as well. And touching back on the geology exhibits that Brian presented, we know that the reservoir quality in sections 5 and 8 and to the southwest are questionable compared to sections 20, 29, and 32, which isn't to say that they aren't economic. I think they can be drilled economically as a 2-mile or even spaced differently as a 3 or a 4-mile, but I don't think it protects correlative rights to be pooling minerals that we strongly believe are different in quality between section 5 and 8 and sections 20, 29, and 32, because the mineral owners in the north will be diluted by what we expect to be a slightly reduced productivity minerals in the south. And all that is pretty much summed up in the bullet points here. The map on the right just has call-outs for the 2-mile and 3-mile wells drilled in the past 3 years. As you can see, there's been a number of operators and a number of different townships all surrounding the proposed spacing unit. And I'm confident that sections 5 and 8 drilled on their own would be perfectly adequate.
Josh, before we move on to the next exhibit, I'd like you to provide for the commission in a bit more detail a discussion that you touched on, and that being that the non-ops are being asked to assume a risk when the operator would only have a bare majority working interest. Can you explain that? I mean, it seems like the risk is the same. Can you provide in detail why it makes a difference if the operator only has a bare majority versus owning 80-90%?
Well, I think it makes a significant difference. You argue that the risk is the same for both the operator and the non-operated, which is true, but the consent is not necessarily the same. If Phoenix is granted a 5-mile spacing and 5-mil permits with roughly 50.05% working interest, then they get what they wanted, and they are perfectly willing to assume the risk of a 5-mile well, which is fine. That's their prerogative. But as discussed before on the land exhibits and here, we know that a significant portion of the remaining 50% are not on board with this particular spacing pattern, and they are going to be force pooled, and they have no choice but to either participate or non-consent, which effectively renders their minerals almost useless. So they're sort of trapped into participating in a venture that may not pay out. Because there are many potential problems that you could encounter when drilling 5-mile wells. And while I believe that these difficulties can be overcome with time and experience, there are a number of operators, including Kraken, who would rather not be pulled into this venture at this time. And I think that sort of negatively impacts the non-operated owners who would rather not be a part of this particular unit.
Okay, let's go on then to the next exhibit, Josh. Exhibit E2. Can you tell us what Exhibit E2 is?
Exhibit E2 goes into greater detail on Kraken's development plan for this acreage in the existing 1920 and in the units surrounding it. As previously mentioned, we entered into an agreement with Burlington Resources, which is a subsidiary of ConocoPhillips, to develop their minerals
within this township over the course of the next 3 years. And with that in mind, we are contractually bound to develop these minerals within that timeline. Our plan is actually to drill this westernmost 1920 by the end of the year. So if there's any question about timely development of minerals, there's no doubt that both of us, Kraken and Phoenix, intend to drill these minerals very soon, within the next 8 to 10 months. I believe it is more orderly and optimal to drill in this particular pattern because, as you'll see on the map, the 3 spacing units that Kraken intends to drill are outlined or highlighted in yellow with the proposed sticks or wells indicated by a green dashed line. The pad locations are shown in a gray box to the south of each of these units. You'll see that the distance between pads is minimal, which reduces the disturbance when considering the laying of pipe for midstream gathering. That's gas, water gathering, oil gathering too. I know Phoenix has indicated that they would prefer to drill from the north of Section 20, which, to tie into existing infrastructure or future infrastructure, you'd have to add an additional 3 miles of pipeline just to get to the south side of the unit for the adjacent sections. So I think that is far from efficient development. And if we're talking about landowner disturbance with drilling 1 pad versus 2, I think you're going to be disturbing far more land by laying 3 miles of pipeline between sections 20 and 32 than you would by simply placing 2 pads, across the road from each other. Furthermore, Phoenix has indicated that they have permits in section 25, 36, 1, and 12. Those are the Mary wells, and they've submitted permits on the Morris wells. And if granted the 5-mile spacing unit, they would be submitting permits, presumably ASAP. They said that they plan to drill all 3 of these units back to back, which is efficient in terms of rig timing and rig move, but is significantly less efficient in terms of midstream infrastructure. I worry that drilling that many wells in such a short amount of time, especially with longer lateral lengths, the volumes are going to be significant enough to where there will be no choice but to flare a significant portion of their gas with limited midstream takeaway. Additionally, I know they have a strategy of drilling an SWD on every pad. So if we're talking about reducing the number of wells that are drilled total with the total disturbance, it's not particularly efficient to drill, more SWDs than are necessary, especially when they can cost upwards of $6 million each. Looking back at the map, the call-outs in the boxes simply indicate our planned timing for all these units. As I said, we plan to drill the western unit by the end of the year, but the central and easternmost units, the 2560 and 1920, those spacings have been proposed and heard by the board, and we plan to drill those in 2027. So even then, giving a little bit of gap for midstream infrastructure to kind of catch up to the volumes, or for the volumes to catch up to midstream infrastructure, while also developing in a timely manner. And I think there's been perhaps a little bit too much focus on drilling sections 5 and 8 as a 2-miler, when until 4 days ago, Phoenix actually had a 4-miler proposed in sections 5, 8, 17, and 20 with case number 32407. And as I understand it, there are close to a dozen conflicting spacings in 14699 proposed. And I think that there are ways to space this township that don't leave sections 5 and 8 as a 2-miler. If the concern is over economics, there's significant opportunity to space this township as 1920s or 2560s, or even a 3,200 acre spacing unit to the south, without disturbing the existing spacing unit to the north in sections 20, 29, and 32.
Josh, I want you to go into just a bit more detail in terms of the infrastructure that you have planned out here and how that fits into the philosophy of Kraken in terms of trying to collect and not flare gas. Can you talk about that in terms of your proposed locations as well as pipelines and, like I said, your philosophy on not wanting to flare gas?
Right. So Kraken's philosophy as a company is, well, of course, to make money, but also to reduce waste in terms of operations. And we take exceptional care in our near-term and long-term schedule to place our drill schedule in such a way where we won't be flaring significant volumes of gas, where we don't need to drill excessive SWDs. Because, when you're flaring gas, you're literally burning money, and that doesn't just impact us as an operator or the non-op partners, but it also impacts the mineral owners who receive a significant portion of that revenue. And when gas is, approaching $4 as it has been lately, that ends up being a pretty significant chunk of change right there that you're throwing away. And we've taken, many steps. Like, we've done quite a bit in our operating history over the last 10 years or so to reduce flaring and capture as much gas as possible. Even pioneering CDPs and partnering with gas gathering companies to build entirely new gathering systems. So I think it's pretty clear from our history that we consider the reduction of waste to be pretty significant and important. And that's reflected in this development here in 14799. As you'll see on the map, the pads are connected by blue dashed line, which is our plan for our SWD gathering. So with our development strategy, we can drill a single SWD on one pad and use it to gather the production from all nearby units when developed in a more managed development strategy, which is 6 to 8 months between pads. And with all these locations here existing on a single line, sort of a township line, which is somewhat arbitrary, but the distance itself is less than 2 miles to connect all 3 pads, whereas if you have a pad location in north of Section 20, as I said before, you're adding several miles of pipeline just to get back to just to get into a position where you can drill the remainder of the units. And I don't think that's particularly efficient either in terms of cost, in terms of spending money, or in terms of reducing the surface damage, as the attorney at Phoenix liked to mention. And if we're talking about proximity to protected lands and sensitive lands and grasslands and such, this location in Section 32, Section 5 is a lot farther from grasslands than Phoenix's proposed location in the north of Section 20, which by their own map is right next to this prohibited grasslands that they show in red on their map. So I don't think they can say that they are protecting sensitive areas in the same way by placing a pad right on top of it.
Okay, let's go on to the next exhibit then, Josh, Exhibit 3, and identify that exhibit and highlight what's contained on it.
Right. Exhibits 3 and 4 just compare the economics between the proposed 3,200 acre spacing unit and the existing 1920 acre spacing unit when considering the different geologies that we observe within these sections. So Exhibit 3 is the economics for the 3 mile 1920. We expect an EUR of 615 MBO per well, which equates to 41 barrel of oil per foot. And with an initial investment of $10 million and a $65 oil price, we expect an IRR of 54% and an NPV
of $5.4 million. I did an additional calculation based on the oil and gas revenue and how much of that would go to the mineral owners based on the spacing unit. And it ends up being about $4,200 per acre per well, which is fairly significant. So keep that in mind when looking at the next exhibit, Exhibit E4, which is the economics of the 5-mile well proposed by Phoenix. I'm assuming an EUR of 890 MPO, which is actually very similar to what Phoenix showed in their exhibits of 900, which is about 35.5 BO per foot. And this was derived by considering the reduced expected oil recovery in the southern sections, as well as discounting slightly the 4th and 5th miles for the uncertainty of total production there. When considering an investment of $14 million in the same oil price, the IRR was 60% and the NPV was $9 million. So you do show a little bit higher rate of return and, of course, higher NPV with greater recovery. But due to the reduced performance on a per foot basis, the royalty is dropping to just under $3,700 per acre. So what that indicates to me is that the mineral owners in the 1920 sections 20, 29, and 32 would be negatively impacted by pooling these southern sections, and it would have a very tangible impact on their royalty, reducing it by $500 per acre, which is not insignificant at all. And I mean, these economics assume that everything goes perfectly, and there's still quite a bit of uncertainty when it comes to 5-mile wells. Phoenix indicated that they would drill a 6-inch hole for the lateral, which is standard, but instead of placing a 4.5-inch liner, they would run a 5-inch liner, which is more efficient in terms of internal annular friction, which is important for completions, but the outer annular space between the pipe and the hole itself is reduced by about 33%. So that makes me question just how easy it is to actually get that liner down those 2 miles, in the ground and 5 miles laterally. I'm a little hesitant to say with confidence that that pipe could actually be pushed to TD. And with that reduced annular space on the outside, there's a chance that you won't get as good of a cement job as well. So there's a little uncertainty there. I haven't done a whole lot of research into that myself, but I am hesitant about that personally. And the biggest problem, I think, in terms of reserves is that as the reservoir gets depleted, if there is plugging in the last mile of the lateral or even in the 4th mile, I think it would be incredibly difficult and expensive to run a clean out all the way to TD on a 5-mile well. And if you can't, punch out that sand bridge or whatever may be blocking your lateral at 3, 4, or 5 miles, then you end up writing down a significant percentage of your reserves, and it leaves a lot of oil in place in those toe sections, which is a problem for the mineral owners, a problem for the operators, a problem for the non-operators. I'm not saying that it can't be solved. There have been 5-mile wells drilled elsewhere, but I'm personally a little skeptical on the economic viability if not everything goes perfectly according to plan.
So, Josh, is it a fair statement that, in your opinion, you believe that you might be able to drill a 5-mile lateral cheaper than laterals on 1920s and 1280s? Is that a fair statement?
I think you can drill it cheaper on a per foot basis.
But does that, in your view, protect relative rights?
In this situation, no, because, again, Phoenix owns only a bare majority of this unit, and when there are operators and potentially mineral owners that don't want their interest pooled in this way, when we've seen from the geology exhibits that
the rock quality is not consistent across this unit, I don't think that it protects correlative rights in this particular instance.
That's all the questions I have. We'd offer the exhibits.
Any objection to the exhibits?
None.
The exhibits are admitted. Any cross-examination?
Josh, thank you. This very detailed explanation. But I'm wondering, because there's this discussion about not wanting to pool lower quality of rock with higher quality of rock, because Kraken's real interested in protecting the correlative rights of, in this instance, the northern three owners in the northern three sections. Has Kraken ever run any type of assessment or any this type of assessment when actually putting together its DSUs, to your knowledge?
Yes, actually,
So you
especially in Montana, but that's maybe outside the realm of this particular board.
so you avoid pooling certain sections with other certain sections because you believe that the geology will effectuate less drainage from a particular section or have a lower quality.
Yes, that's true. We try to keep a similar geology together, and I think you'll see throughout the majority of the basin, at least in the core, or even the broader core, which covers hundreds of square miles, that the geology tends to be pretty similar across a localized area. And as you get to the sort of the edges of the basin, if you will, the decline tends to be gradual and not as severe as we have observed from our geo models in this particular area.
So you can't give any specific examples of a instance where you were involved with setting up a drilling and spacing unit that you axed it because ultimately you believe that on one side of a section line, a geological feature would somehow reduce the amount of recovery for the owners on that other side.
Actually, I can, and this actually this might be interesting to you because it directly relates to Phoenix development. When you look at our northernmost acreage in Williams County,
I'm just looking for one specific example.
I'm
Not necessarily.
providing you an example.
Okay.
And then our northernmost acreage in Williams County, we owned quite a few of the leases that Phoenix has eventually acquired and drilled. I don't have a map in front of me. I think it's like 158, 100, around that general area. We've drilled several 3-mile wells, the Kisners, Deacons, Orbits, Lyman. You know, there's a number of wells. If I had my GIS open, I could be more specific. But we owned a lot of the minerals north of those wells, in fact. And our CEO, as you may know, is a geologist, so he's pretty passionate about geomodeling. And it was his opinion that north of that line where we drilled, the geology was significantly worse enough that it was not in our interest to pool that with the rest of our acreage, which we had originally drilled as 2 miles back in 2018, 2019.
Well, I think that's a different question, though. It's not in Kraken's interest because of
Mr. Examiner, I'm going to object. You asked him a pretty broad question. I'd like him to have an opportunity to respond to it.
You can continue, Mr. Walker.
Right. So we had these minerals, you know, up to 2 miles north of our 2-mile sections, and we believed that the single mile sort of rung, if you will, north of our 2-mile wells was similar enough to be drilled and pooled as 3-mile, but that the 4th mile was significantly different to where we didn't want to pool that together, and we ended up actually not renewing those minerals, not renewing those leases, and they were eventually picked up by Phoenix, and they drilled quite a few pads in North Williams and I think up into Divide County, and the results are, I think, different enough to support our decision.
So ultimately, 2-milers, drilling 2-milers are fine, but you say that sections 5 and 8 aren't good quality rock. In
I'm not
fact, to
saying
the
that.
point where you won't pool it with the rest of the remaining acreage.
It's not a matter of them being not good. It's simply a matter of relative to sections 20, 29, and 32. It is estimated to be less prolific. I've said before, and I'll say it again, I think sections 5 and 8 can be economically drilled on a 2-mile basis, but I think the geological difference is significant enough that it would be not protecting of correlative rights to pool it.
But ultimately, there's always going to be variability, as your geologist testified, between across section lines, because those are ultimately arbitrary, correct?
There's always going to be variability in geology because it's an imperfect science. It's imprecise, but we do the best we can with our modeling. And I think the question here is not whether or not there is always going to be slight differences. It's a matter of the magnitude of those differences. And I think in this particular example, the magnitude of the change, which just happens, is by happenstance that it's upon this line, is greater than what we typically expect in our different acreage positions.
So not necessarily Kraken's preference, but good enough for another operator to drill.
I mean, if we had minerals in this unit, we would be drilling it as well.
Okay, so not so significant that you would be drilling 5 and 8 as a DSU, correct?
I just said that if we had minerals in 5 and 8, then we would be drilling that unit, not the 3200, but the 5 and 8.
Correct. So the geology, or the ability to extract hydrocarbons from 5 and 8, accounting for the geology and the engineering, that is sufficient for Kraken to set up its own 1280, correct?
Sure.
But it's so significant that Phoenix can't incorporate 5 and 8 into the northern 3 sections.
That's correct. Instead of thinking about this as good and bad, you seem to be having a hard time wrapping your head around this.
I guess I am, because you're testifying that 5 and 8 can be economically drilled, and that you would, but somehow Phoenix, that threshold somehow disallows Phoenix to go ahead and not be able to space it as a 3,200 acre spacing unit.
Is there a question here?
No, I think Mr. Lochner made the point of him not wrapping his head around. I think he was entitled to respond to that.
Okay.
You can proceed.
Yeah, so ultimately, Kraken believes it can economically recover hydrocarbons in an efficient manner that protect correlative rights from sections 20, 29, and 32, correct?
Yes.
And if it had it owned sections 5 and 8, it could also do so in sections 5 and 8.
Yeah, to a different level of recovery.
Okay. Is there less uncertainty in drilling a 3-mile unit versus a 4 or 5 mile unit?
Yes, of course.
In your configuration is a 3-mile unit, correct?
Yep.
And you tend to fully develop it?
We do.
And as I think you've already made clear, that would force Phoenix into developing a 2-mile unit, correct?
Actually, I've indicated that there are many possible spacing configurations for 146.99. 5 and 8 is just one of them.
Yeah, but within these 5 miles, we're talking about the difference between a 5-mile versus a 3 and a 2.
If we're just looking at these particular 5 sections, then yes.
How many wells do you think Kraken will drill on its 3-mile spacing unit?
The same as Phoenix, which is 4.
And if you were to drill 5 and 8 as a 1280, how many wells would you drill?
4 wells.
How many wells is that in total?
That's tough math. I'm not sure. I think it'd have to be 8.
Touche. So if Phoenix can economically drill 4 wells to drain this particular part of this reservoir, 8 wells to drain the same geographic portion of the reservoir is more than 4, correct?
That sure is.
So isn't that the definition of drilling unnecessary wells to recover the natural resource from the underlying sections?
Not when you consider that if you expect differential results from the northern sections and the southern sections, then I think the issue of correlative right supersedes that of drilling.
But ultimately,
additional-
you're drilling double the wells to get the same amount of recovery, correct?
Yes, which
Okay.
doesn't seem to have been a problem for Phoenix and many of their units in Williams County, where they drilled several 1280s.
Josh, tell me, has Kraken ever drilled a 4-mile well in North Dakota?
In North Dakota, no. Montana, yes.
And of those 4-mile wells in Montana, how many?
And that would be just 2.
And were they true 4-milers or were they cut short?
One of them was a little bit short. The other one did actually reach 4 with directional drilling.
So you're talking about a reduction of barrels on a per foot basis, looking at your exhibits E4 and E5 between a 3-miler and a 5-miler, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So Kraken hasn't, they've only drilled 2 4-mile wells, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So are you basing this on your own internal data? You're not really basing this on your own internal data, are you?
Well, there's other data in the basin on a 4-mile, so it's both internal and external.
And let's see. You mentioned working interest is important when establishing spacing units, correct?
Yes.
How much does Kraken own in its 3-mile?
In the 3-mile, we have 33% with our partnership with Burlington, and we have letters of support that get us the majority.
But if you were to drill the well, ultimately anyone above 33% would have to make an election to participate, correct? You don't own that acreage, so ultimately other parties would be involved with the investment of those wells, not Kraken.
Sure. Same thing with Phoenix 5-mile, where 50% would have to consent.
Right. Looking at, you testified that it's your belief anyway, that Phoenix ultimately drills 1 SWD per unit. I want you to take a look at Phoenix's exhibit L5 with me, just real quick. You got it right in front of you there.
Mm-hmm.
So, looking at L5, Phoenix's proposed Morris and Mary units. Would it surprise you to know that they're only going to be drilling 1 SWD to have in common to dispose of water between those 2 units?
That would surprise me a little bit, considering it's contrary to every other unit they've ever drilled.
So, ultimately, your statements about the drilling of unnecessary wells and somehow associating that with saltwater disposal wells is irrelevant.
I wouldn't say it's strictly irrelevant, but drilling 1 instead of 2 is a step in the right direction for you guys. So, congrats. Of course, there is a question of if the 1 SWD can handle the volumes of 2 pads that are drilled consecutively. And if it can't, then that's going to result in quite a bit of trucking, which landowners don't appreciate.
Do you have permits submitted for your 3-mile configuration?
We don't have permits submitted, but we have been working with the landowners. We have staked a pad location. As mentioned before, we recently signed the deal with Burlington in January, but we've been, working on this for several months.
And when would you drill these 4 wells in your 3-mile configuration?
Plan to drill it by the end of the year. It's currently slotted in late August on the drill schedule.
No further questions. Any questions from the staff?
Josh, getting back to the discussion about discounting the productivity off the 4th and 5th mile. Are you able to elaborate on how much you reduced the anticipated production?
Yes. So you'll see on the 3 mile economics, barrel per foot is 41 on average. So to account for the geological degradation that we expect moving to the south, I reduced that by 15% for the southern units, and then an additional 15% with each subsequent mile after 3. So you're looking at 4th mile, 15% reduced by geo, 15% reduced by basically risking the 4th mile, whether or not late term production can be maintained. And then the 5th mile was one additional 15% reduction. I will say the early time results on the 4 mile wells have been promising, which is great news, and it bodes well for the basin. But my hesitation is with long-term productivity and the potential inability to clean out the well to TD if impacted by offset fracs or other such disturbances.
So in the initial kind of evaluation that you've seen or that you've done on the 4 miles that are out there, 4 milers that are out there, at least at this point, are you seeing what looks like 15% degradation on the 4th mile?
It's probably slightly less. It's not a strict 1-to-1 in terms of, scaling up from a 1280 to a 1920 to a 2560. But I think that you are going to experience problems later in life. And with all of 4 miles in the basin being drilled simply in the last 2 years, it's just too early to tell. And I think it's not wise to be overly optimistic in terms of reserves modeling. If it maintains 1-to-1, though, I think that bodes well for everyone in the basin. So we can all hope that is maintained throughout the life.
Okay, thank you.
Attorney Bender, any redirect?
No redirect.
Okay, for both parties, is March 6th long enough to supplement the record?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, the
Yep.
record will remain open in this case until March 6th. I'm sorry?
Regarding that supplemental that I asked for on the porosity and water saturation values, there was some discussion about the proprietary nature of your water saturation calculations. I guess there may be a need for you to justify the values you're providing. And so just be prepared if for whatever reason you're not prepared to justify those values or explain how you got to those values. It may be a problem for the commission to lend them much weight. They'll be given whatever weight we feel comfortable giving them. So if you can include your methodology, please do. It'll help better understand the numbers you're presenting, of course.
That concludes our hearing for case number 32492. That concludes our hearings for the day.
Thank you.